Welcome everyone. Today we will talk about the units and unit counters. Many people has a really low understanding on how to counter each type of unit, right? So let's say I have Donzo. What kind of unit should I use to counter Donzo? Of course, you need to use archers or men-at-arms. But let me demonstrate a few things that you should have known while you played this game, right? So first of all, when you are facing the Ayubid player, most of the time people are trying to make knights in feudal. Now let me show you what happens if there is a desert raider versus knight, right? Because let's say you are a French player and you are making knight to counter the desert raider. What will happen if the desert raider and the knight starting to fight? You will see eventually the lower risk res cost unit will win the fight. Look at that. 20 health still left, and I could have micro this using my raider bow to do like one little bit of damage, let's say 3 damage before we clash together, and after just switch back to blade and I would survive even with more health. So what is the pure counter to this? Now when the enemy has desert raider, let's say you have 2 horsemen, which is the same cost, overall cost as a knight, right? The shredder, it doesn't cost gold, it will cost you food and wood. Now let me show you what will happen if there are 2 horsemen. You can also micro this, so you will not lose one of your horsemen, but eventually the 2 horsemen will win against the desert raider. But again, as I said, you can a little bit micro this, and both horsemen will survive with both of them on half health. But as you can see, the 2 horsemen, which is the same cost as a knight, can eventually beat the desert raider. Let's move to the next one. Many people doesn't know that there is a really important unit type in the game. Is called the light melee infantry, right? So we have the Lanchnut as a light melee infantry, we have the Donzo, we have the Musafadi warrior, we have the spearman, every kind of spearman in the game. They're all light based melee infantry units, right? And even though it's not melee infantry, the Janissary also takes extra damage. Now as you can see, this is just a few units that I want to show, but the most common thing in all of them is called light melee infantry. Light melee infantry, light melee infantry, light melee infantry, light melee infantry. Now because these units are light melee infantry, the archer type unit that has bonus damage against light melee infantry will be really useful. Now why did I put the Janissary here when it says light gunpowder infantry, so not melee? Because if you hold a mouse over the Janissary, it says it receives 15% extra range damage. So it will receive not just 8 but plus 4 extra damage on that unit. So I will not do 8 but 12 damage against the Janissary, right? And that's why so many people doesn't understand when I say when it's Castle Age, making veteran camel archer is also good against a Janissary, because the camel archer will do extra damage against the Janissary, right? Or you can make example Onamusha against Janissary, and you're gonna say, but wait, Onamusha has very low damage, right? It has only 10 when the camel archer has 14, and the 50% is much better for a camel archer. But what people forget is the range of the Janissary. It's 3.5. So every unit that has bigger range than 3.5, and it's cavalry unit, because the Janissary does 16 damage against every cavalry. This can be elephant, camels, and horses, right? If you have more range than 3.5, you can just kite it with your higher range, like the Onamusha with 5.5, so 2 tiles extra range compared to Janissary. Or pretty sure horse archers as well, that they have 4.5, right? So horse archer can kite the Janissary as well, or focus the horse archer on the Janissary when the Janissary is in the back. So you can still use cavalry units that's ranged against the Janissary, because you do 50% extra damage, don't forget that. You're gonna have a little bit harder time with units that has lower range like 3.75 on the camel archer, but that's perfectly fine because the camel archer has a lot of health. If you compare like a horse archer in H3 or Onamusha 80, 85, they have 175 the reason why they have so much health, so they can survive a gunpowder shots from the Janissary, right? So they can actually do damage to the Janissaries. Janissary is still the best counter against cavalry units, but you can use ranged cavalry units to actually kill the Janissaries. Okay, other thing really important, what counters the tower elephant? Now don't forget, it's a ranged unit, right? It's still a ranged unit, which means one of the counter is still the horseman. Since the horseman does, it just says plus 9 damage against ranged. Now, because the tower elephant is classified as ranged cavalry, so you can use both spearmen. We are talking about H3 right now. So you can use both spearmen, even man at arm as well, why not? But the bonus damage type of units are spearmen, horsemen, and janissaries, right? So those type of units are really good. Or you can use like desert raiders, or you can use the camel riders, which is this one. So you can use camel rider and Desert Raider because they have bonus damage against cavalry units, and elephants as cavalry. So again, if you want to find out how to counter the units, what you need to read is what type of unit they are. Example, ranged cavalry, light, melee, cavalry, camel, right? Light, ranged, and melee camel, because it says a ranged unit. Because if you maybe you didn't understood why the horseman can beat them, it says ranged. That means the horseman does plus 9 damage against the desert raider because it's in range. Doesn't matter if the desert raider is in range mode or melee mode, you will always deal bonus damage against the desert raider because it's classified as a ranged unit. Just like if you want to beat the camel archer, you can use a horseman. So people didn't understood, let's say if it's H3 versus H3, and they were complaining about Mangudai is being really strong. Well, I don't agree with that. So let's see 5 Mangudai versus 5 horsemen in Castle Age, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So people were complaining that they can't beat it. Well, let's say there is 5 Mangudai versus 5 horsemen, which is a normal situation, right? This can easily happen. You can easily fight 5 Mangudai with 5 horsemen. So as you can see, Mangudai might kill 1 or 2 horsemen, but I don't think they would like beat all those horsemen, right? Which this scenario can easily happen in a game, right? So again, horseman does counter Mangudai, and you don't need to be scared of, right? It's just gonna make horsemen, and eventually you're gonna snipe them. But you need to make a good number of those units, because if you don't make it, then of course you will not win against Mangudai. Let's say 3 horsemen will not beat 10 Mangudai. So like, you're gonna make 10 horsemen, and you're gonna beat the 10 Mangudai. Example like that. So you need to like make a unit mass to kill the other unit. You can see like Mangudai is not a cheap unit. Again, it's really gold heavy, and it was 5 versus 5, and there is still 1 horseman almost full health, just 3 health was missing, right? So you can beat Mangudai with horseman, just the numbers are very, very important. There were questions as well that how you can kill the Onobugeisha, but we already talked about, because Onobugeisha is light melee infantry. Archers can work, but you need to make sure, even though you have archers, you have mid shield, aka some man at arms with them, because might not work to have only pure archers, right? Let's say these are Castle Age Onobugeisha without upgrade. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. How many is that? 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 archer. Okay. Now let's see what's gonna happen if you have no mid shield and no micro. Because this can literally happen in lower league games, right? You have no mid shield and you have a good amount of archers. Okay, you are beating it. Amazing, that's what you want, right? But what if, okay, you can see 12 archers survived. What if we are on feudal age, right? And let's say you struggled in feudal age. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's say 8 on a Brigesha and 8 archer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's see what's gonna happen now. There is 8 archer, there is 8 on a Brigesha. It's just gonna go like this. So let's see what happens. because people were struggling to beat Onobugesha as well in feudal. There is 8 versus 8. And no micro, so I'm not even microing. If I micro this, it will be even worse, right? Because the Onobugesha would win very easily. But might be not. So as you can see, if there is no micro, there is no focus target, of course the Onobugesha will win in like an 8 versus 8. But if you micro your units, you were walking back and shoot, you will eventually win, right? It's like the same thing. Let's say we are saying that archers are countering spearmen, right? But what if there are 5 spearmen versus 3 archer? Well, if you micro the archers, you will win. With the 3 archer can easily beat 5 spearmen. But what happens if there are 5 spearmen, 3 archer without micro, right? You're gonna test this and you're gonna think like, oh my god, spearmen are actually OP. The 5 spearmen will win, while the archer is a hard counter unit to the spearmen, right? Because archers are insanely good countering to the spearmen. Now, if you don't micro, you don't do like stepper runs, then of course you're gonna lose. Now let me show you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. So we're gonna do it again, but I will micro this, right? So you will see that actually 3 archer can beat 5 spearmen, even though you did not see that when there is no micro. If there is no micro, of course the 5 spearmen will beat the 3 archer, right? So you just need to micro it. You just need to click on the spearman, and you're not gonna have problem of beating the spearman with your archers. See? And that's why the archer is a hard counter to the spearman. Because even I'm on like less number, right? If I micro it, kite them perfectly, then you have no problem with beating the 5 spearmen. So that's why we are saying the archer is a perfect counter to the spearman. But for that, again, you need to micro it. If you don't micro, of course you will lose against the 5 spearmen. That's why I'm saying that these units are the hard counter, just like the archer is a hard counter to the spearman. Because if it was like, let's say, 2 horsemen versus 3 archer, or 1 horseman against 3 archer, you're gonna lose with the archers, because our horseman is a hard counter, right, to the archers. So now here as well, you can see the archer is a hard counter to the spearman. You can easily kill the 5 spearmen with 3 archers. You just need to click, run and click, run and click. And that's all you need to do. Okay, let's see. Other things were really important, and I got question as well. Example, how to counter the Ozutsu. Well, it's heavy range gunpowder infantry. What does it mean? If you have crossbow, you can counter every type of heavy units in the game. Example, Cataphracts, Sofa, or this guy or that guy, right? So if it says heavy, and heavy, or in a range unit, heavy, a crossbowman can easily counter it. And here comes the most important. The crossbowman will not counter the tower elephant because it doesn't say heavy, but it counters the war elephant because it says heavy in the title, right? Under his name. So if you're fighting as elephant with a crossbow, you will do really less damage to a tower elephant. Look at the 7 ranged armor. But if you fight a war elephant, you're gonna do a lot of damage because it's titled as a heavy unit. But here comes the thing that warrior scouts are only counters range units. They are not heavy, they are light when they get into H3. So if you want to make warrior scout, don't forget that only the level 3 warrior scout has the bonus damage against range units. So when you are level 2 or level level 2, you can say this is level 2 warrior scout, you just, which is the feudal age warrior scout, you do only bonus damage against siege and scout, and on castle age you do bonus damage against ranged. So this is the things that you need to always check, and what type of cavalry you have, what type of units you have, because those all can help. You're gonna ask how to counter Shaolin Monk because it says button monk, right? It doesn't say what kind of unit can counter it. Now, if you have a high armor unit with high damage, like a knight, knights can counter it. Crossbows, no, because you can activate the body of iron, but eventually every range unit can counter these units, right? You can use archers, you can use crossbows, but don't forget, when you see a monk glowing yellow, it means they will receive 15 damage less, 50% less damage for 15 seconds. So now, for 15 seconds, crossbowmen, range units are not really the counter against the Shaolin monk, right? Because you receive 15 less damage. So again, always check what the title of the units, if it's heavy, if it's melee, if it's infantry, or if it's light melee cavalry, if it's heavy melee cavalry, if it's ranged cavalry. You always need to check these little details when you click on the unit. Example here as well, it says light range gunpowder infantry, right? So you will know what type of unit will counter it. Example, it will get countered by the javelin thrower, because it says +8 range unit, right? +8 against range units. But it also, the sofa will counter it, because it says +2 against infantry. So the sofa does more damage against infantry units, right? Which is really, really nice. I think only the sofa is the only cavalry unit that does bonus damage against cavalry. Infantry. As cavalry unit. Now again, really important to talk about. There are like damage types in the game. One damage type is the piercing. We can say ranged damage type or piercing damage. I love to use piercing damage. You know, I played a lot of Warcraft 3. So there are units that use the piercing damage, just like the javelin thrower, the Ozotsu, the Kuvarin, and the Springald as well. You can say Springald and Kuvarin. They also has piercing damage, but most of the melee units are using normal damage, aka melee damage. I always call it normal damage. Just like Gazi Raider, Palace Guard, Imperial Guard, War Elephant uses normal aka melee damage as well. Now there are other type of damage, which is we call the true damage aka siege damage, because there is no unit in the game that has armor against it. So currently that's all the pure damage we have, right, as siege damage, or we can call it chaos damage, which is like the cannon, the mangonel, the grenadier, the counterweight trebuchet, and bombard. So as soon as you see, there are more units, but as you see, it says siege damage, aka that's the chaos damage of the game. Then those units will do pure damage, which is 100 damage always, or 500 damage against buildings always, because you can't research armor against them. You can research armor against the ranged damage, against the melee damage, but not against the siege damage. There's one more base type of damage, which is called fire damage. Some buildings have fire armor, right? Not all of them. Like example, the keep. Now the Manjanik has this type of damage. You can see fire, which it's really bad to use against buildings that has fire armor, right? Because the base damage of this Manjanik is 2 and 14 against building per rocks. And it does like 12 rocks, right? So 12 times 2 plus 14 damage, right? So if, let's say, a building has 10 fire armor, then it's only 6 damage per rock, right? Which means you would have better to use the pure damage against a building than because it's 12 plus 24 times 3, than using the fire damage, which will not all the rocks will hit the building, right? So many times I see people accidentally using the fire damage against buildings that has fire armor. Example, you get fire armor if you are Abbasid or Ayyubid, or if you research it in a Delhi keeps, or you can research it as like HRE or OOTD, or if you put relic inside buildings, those buildings will receive extra fire damage. Keeps naturally has fire armor, and upgraded towers has +5 fire armor as well. So against those buildings, the fire damage is useless. Then you are using the kinetic, which is the pure damage of the game. Now, I'm pretty sure you learned a lot about damage types, how to counter each unit, what kind of unit you need to use, what does bonus against the other. And let me show you one last thing before I go. Let's say you are H3, right? And you have like, let's say 5 archer and the enemy has like, where is it? 1, 2, 3, let's say 3 Mangudai. And you can just focus fire these Mangudais, because someone said that 3 Mangudai killed his 5 archer. Now we're gonna try that if that's true. Even if you don't micro the Mangudai, the 5 archer, which is way much lower cost than making Mangudai, right, will always work. So if it's H3, if it's H4, doesn't matter. The archers will always work against Mangudai. Again, the 3 Mangudai was really expensive to make, while the archers are really cheap. So do not be afraid, do not be scared of using archers, horsemen, but make sure you always have a high number, because if the opponent has a higher number, then of course you will lose. Oh, one more thing. Shinobi is also light melee infantry, so archers counters them. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope I'm really happy if I helped. If you have any question or anything, please let me know in the comment section. I love all of you guys. I always answer the questions, or we have a really nice conversation. See you guys next time. Have a nice day. Wow.